Dillian Whyte has been officially cleared by the WBC. Yay, which means bullshit, nothing. UKAD has still not deliberated and still not made their determination on Dillian Whyte's case. And because UKAD is not under the Ali Act, not under any sort of the Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 in the U.S., he's not suspended, and they don't do temporary suspensions. So Dillian Whyte is free to fight anywhere because he's not temporarily suspended. That's how he can get away with going to Saudi Arabia and having to fight there. That's how he can get away with kind of any fight because UKAD doesn't view this time period in the same way that the U.S. does. For example, the Chavez temporary suspension that's been on hold. Just want to point that out, a little factoid for people trying to understand the differences. Why can Dillian Whyte go and fight in Saudi Arabia, and that's not much of an issue, but Chavez going to Arizona is an issue. Just the laws that these two respective fighters are under are vastly different. The Professional Boxing Safety Act of 1996 made it so where commissions cannot license anyone that is under suspension for any reason, whether it be medical or drug or anything of that nature. You just can't license a fighter. And that got ratified again, obviously in 1999 with the Ali Act, but that is completely void in the UK legal system. There's no equivalent to that there. And again, UKAD and the British Boxing Board Control do not do temporary suspensions. That's how Tyson Fury even was able to fight Vladimir Klitschko in Germany because he popped for, I think it was the Christian Hammer fight, 6 months before, 9 months before, let's say. So the fight before Klitschko, he popped. And the entire time, UKAD was deliberating on the case, but he was allowed to fight in Germany. But the WBC has cleared him, so he's back in the rankings. Doesn't really mean much, obviously, because they've already ruled that Tyson Fury is now the mandatory, and Dillian Whyte has to wait till 2021. But regardless, I think for all the Dillian Whyte hardcore fanboys out there, you guys can rally around this piece of news, which largely means nothing because your system over there largely doesn't punish people in this nature.
Which is also a win for Dillian Whyte because if AJ wins, he'll just fight AJ. And that will be in the UK, and it'll be a bigger purse, I would think, than fighting Wilder in the US. So it's not really that big a deal. It's a setback, but
oh yeah, the whole mandatory thing is not a big deal because he has the AJ rematch in his back pocket at all times.
Which I think he wins that fight too, by the way. So.
And Matthew D'Souza and UKAD cleared him. No, they did not. They allowed him to fight on that day. That does not mean he's not going to face a suspension. Like, literally, I just explained another heavyweight that had this same exact case, Tyson Fury. Guess what? He got suspended eventually. It just so happens it's retroactive because that's how UKAD usually handles the situations. They have these retroactive suspensions because they don't do temporary suspensions. You may think that's the right way to go about it, but that's what it is. He is not cleared. He was allowed to fight. That is significantly different. Please stop listening to his promoter speak about this because his promoter has a monetary agenda to make sure you don't know about this, that you don't care about this, and that you think it's something else. Like, this is propaganda like 101, I feel like. So, come on, Matthew. Do better in the chat. Be smarter out there. But anyways, that's about it for the Whyte news. Gary, any other thoughts about Dillian Whyte?
No, not really. I mean, again, he's going to get away pretty much scot-free. He's going to fight twice this year. And then, I mean, I think he fights Joshua regardless of if Joshua wins or loses. I mean, it's a bigger fight if he wins, but I think the fight happens either way. So he's not really – he got nothing. And this is his second time failing a test. He should be done. He should not be allowed to fight again. But he'll get nothing instead, and he'll just fight AJ instead of Wilder.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't think he should be barred from boxing ever again. Like, I don't agree with that. But hey, that's not the the conversation we're really having here as a whole. Not me and you per se, but the community, the industry as a whole. When it comes to Dillian Whyte's case, Dillian Whyte's case is primarily about UKAD's procedures, UKAD's system that is primarily not transparent. That is, in a way, fighter friendly because it is, to be honest, but to maybe past the point where it makes sense with the current paradigm. Like let's say if the U.S. system was like UKAD, where fighters, let's say they pop, but there's a due process and they're allowed to continue their career and continue working and making money and making a living in the meantime while that due process happens. I'm completely kind of in favor of that, to be honest. But that's not the paradigm we live in. That's not the standard that we hold all of combat sports to. We hold all of combat sports to a very strict WADA implemented policy. Okay? And UKAD, being a WADA signatory, is acting in ways that other WADA signatories do not act. And that is perhaps the issue, that there's this inconsistency with the implementation of the WADA code by either the commissions or USADA or UKAD and British Boxing Board Control. And that inconsistency is an issue when, technically speaking, they're under the same code.
I want to ask you this, and I'm going to make you king of combat sports for a day.
Ooh.
It's you, and there's no checks on your power. What would be your punishment for a guy that's failed a second test?
I think no matter what, I think there needs to be some aspect of collective bargaining with fighters. If I'm king of the sport, like I think fighters do deserve some negotiation power in the room, whether it's PD regulation, whether it's contract discussions, whether it's standardization of medical procedures and licensing. Fighters deserve a seat at the table in that discussion. That's just how I view a lot of things. I think it should be kind of, I'll be honest, lenient. And I also think that the entire WADA code needs an overhaul. I think our perception of certain PEDs needs to be changed as well. I think there's a huge medical aspect to these performance-enhancing drugs that are used for civilians all the time.
The first time he failed, though, he failed for an anabolic steroid, didn't he?
No. You're talking about just 2 times, period.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Dillian Whyte's case right now. I'm talking in general right now, to be honest. I'll get to Dillian Whyte's case maybe specifically if you want. But generally speaking, if I'm running the gambit, if I'm running the industry and I'm setting up how our regulatory system works for PDs, I'm rehauling the entire categories and code for WADA, because there's a lot of stuff in there that's been medically proven to not be even performance enhancing. And even if it is, quote, performance enhancing, there's a huge medical benefit to it that is being ignored for the sake of fairness that I really don't think is even there. And I think it's kind of a pointless, arbitrary battle to have. And plus, I also think that rigorously going after fighters is not the way to shrink PD use. You go after the production company, so to speak. You go after the mass producers of PEDs, because there are mass producers. There are significant, huge laboratories around the world that do produce PEDs for athletes around the world. Go after that. I would really put most of the funding for this sort of regulatory body to that instead of testing fighters. But I would obviously have some sort of random drug testing protocol that is adherent and in agreement with fighters. And that second pop, probably, let's say, a year, to be honest. I think first pop is 6 months. But then again, it's so hard to think about a different paradigm. Let's say certain PEDs are 100% allowed due to injuries, right? Like you blew out your knee, blew out your shoulder. You're allowed to take a small amount of medical prescribed HGH or something like that to heal up your wounds, or injuries. I would be largely in favor of that, to be honest. I know that's kind of...
I'd be in favor of taking all forms of HGA, tested forms of HGA, off the list, because there's no medical downside. There's only upsides, like medical marijuana. Well, we can't have this, but why not? Right? It doesn't make any sense. It's not bad for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
No medical downside. So why can't I take this?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why you can't take things like HGH, right? We can all take it, and it's not going to cause anyone cancer. It's not going to give anyone a heart attack. So why can't we take it? I agree with you. There are things on the banned substance list that need to come off the list.
Absolutely.
But to me, if someone pops for an anabolic steroid, they're not trying to recover. They're not trying to heal an injury. They're trying to cheat. They're trying to get an unfair advantage, right? And I said, in baseball, that's fine. Go ahead, do it. You're not hurting anyone.
Mm-hmm.
maybe you'll grow 6 arms or something and whatever, but you're not hurting anyone. No one's getting physically hurt by you taking steroids. And I don't want to hear the argument with, well, then everyone has to take it. I was a pretty good high school baseball player. If I would have taken steroids my whole life, I'd never be a Major League Baseball player. Just not good enough, right? So I don't like that argument. It's like, well, then you're going to have high school. No, high school kids are not going to play in the major leagues. I can't hit a ball 450 feet, so I'm not going to play in the major leagues.
There is no scientific or medical data out there that proves that taking any performance-enhancing drug will give you superhuman capabilities. Does it increase training time? Does it increase respiratory abilities? Maybe, and in very small ways. I mean, for most people, if you ask them that have really taken PDs, that have like really gone down that way, what they would say is that it just helps you in training. It helps you train longer. It helps you get more reps in. That is the main advantage of taking PDs. It gives you more reps. If you are taking it for that unfair advantage, right? Not taking it for, let's say, an injury or something like that, and then you're not supposed to, different thing. But if you're taking PDs specifically to get unfair advantage, you're doing it to just get more reps in. Train 3 times a day instead of 2 times a day. Do 50 pull-ups instead of 25 pull-ups, whatever that is. But
help, it's a benefit, but it's not going to take an ordinary athlete and make him a professional athlete. But to think that is ridiculous.
And on top of it, to the statement that baseball. Oh, Gary just went away. Gary, come back. I'll keep talking. Just Gary's not here. But there's Gary. Gary, well, hi.
I don't know. It kicked me out real quick.
It's Gary. It's okay. But what I was going to say is that, the common phrase I've heard, like, well, this is like boxing. People get like punched in the face. You can't have people taking any PDs and getting punched in the face. But there's also no real proof that taking PDs increases punching power beyond human capabilities. Like the whole Ivan Drago getting your PSI up to like 80,000 or whatever it was, right? Like that's not reality. Like that is Cold War era U.S. talking points about the big bad Soviet Union having superhumans and stuff like that. That's what it is. That's where a lot of it comes from, is the 1960s and 70s, that Cold War worry about athletes being superhuman in the Olympics and then soldiers being superhuman, when really U.S. athletes were also taking PEDs around the same time.
Like always interesting, like in Rocky IV, they portray the American as the little guy underdog. In what world, in the last 100 years, has America been the small little guy underdog in anything?
The best part is, though, is that it does show Ivan Drago taking PEDs, when we know for a fact Stallone, to this day, is taking PEDs up the fucking ass, bro. So it is just insane. And then again, like obviously in the Cold War, the U.S. had like 6 times the amount of nuclear warheads. I mean, who cares, right? Besides the point, though. I think, digressing, to the PED regulatory system needs a complete overhaul. And back to Dillian Whyte's case, that's why I've always tried to make the argument not necessarily about Dillian Whyte, because the issue isn't about Dillian Whyte. It's the inconsistency in PED regulation worldwide, and on top of that, the inconsistency in the public standard for PED regulation, because there is an inconsistency in certain people and how fans refer to certain fighters that popped and versus others that have. There is a massive difference. I mean, I can almost guarantee you the Matchroom fans that bitch about us talking about Joe Miller don't say a goddamn thing about Alexander Povetkin fighting on the Matchroom card in a week, for example, right? There is an inconsistency in perception, an inconsistency in just regulation, period. And that's the main issue that I think we need to address. And whether or not UKAD system is inherently wrong is a separate topic. I think it is wrong because it's inconsistent with the sort of set policies that we have and set standards we have as a industry, because it is different than the mass form of boxing, the mass industry of boxing. But that's beside the point of whether I think it is morally the better system for PED regulation. That's beside the point. But that was a long rant. Sorry, guys. You know how I do. You know how I get with PED regulation. I get off tangents. But digressing, Gary, any other thoughts on Dillian Whyte and PED regulation?
No, I mean, I think we covered that sufficiently.
Yeah. a lot. I did not plan that.